What's going on, YouTube? So Nissan certainly made a big splash late last year with this all-new Murano in the full-size SUV segment.
What?
All-new version of their Armada.
And because of that, we were certainly excited to spend 7 days with it back home in Kentucky to test out its family SUV capabilities.
So, after this week, is this truly a Tahoe and Sequoia killer that you should take seriously? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Now let's begin things as always under the hood for our spec dump. Now big changes with this new generation are under the hood since we've got a 3.5 liter twin turbocharged V6 engine instead of a V8. This is making 425 horsepower and is paired to a 9-speed automatic transmission. Our combined fuel economy for this four-wheel drive model is 17 mpg.
Now the base price for the Armada is $56,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, this is also a 7-day review. We lived with this model, so we'll be doing a couple special things. First of all, we'll get our official Kentucky sound level reading. We'll tell you our real-world fuel economy after driving with it this week, as well as if we like it better, the same, or worse after living with it.
But let's go ahead and close up the hood because we've got a bold exterior design and a very luxurious interior. Now in this segment, you're going against heavyweights like the Tahoe and the Sequoia, and those are SUVs that have a bold presence. It's really expected in this class of vehicle, and Nissan has brought that to the table with this new Armada. Amongst all the people we showed this to this week, everybody thought it looked quite handsome overall. We agree with them, and that begins up here in the front with a pretty classic looking grille, nothing too complicated. It's not really too much of the V motion, just kind of a slight V to it, and then you've got some chrome accents on this fully loaded Platinum Reserve. The other trim levels do have some different finishes throughout the lineup. Now in terms of our lighting, of course, we've got a quite large full LED headlight cluster. We have the stacked crystals for our low and high beam, this really distinct looking daytime running light and turn signal indicator going through here. And then your top two trims will also come with LED fog lights down here at the bottom. Now moving around to the rear of this Armada, it has a nice and bold design.
Yeah, very boxy and tough looking here in the rear, and let's go ahead and break down some of the design touches that you're going to find. We do have a hidden rear wiper, a spoiler right here, and then all the way across the back we have a taillight unit. Now that's going to be included if you choose the Pro 4X or this Platinum Reserve model. And as you can see, when it comes to this taillight, every component is LED. So as you can see, we have an LED brake light, LED reverse light, LED amber turn signal indicator, then of course the light bar going through the center, big Armada branding, and then as we drop down to this lower fascia, this is going to be a mixture of body color as well as some other material choices. As far as your tow rating is concerned, it comes in at 8,500 pounds, which is actually better than the Tahoe.
Now moving on to the wheels, you've got a few different size options you can choose from. We have the biggest option, of course, which are 22-inch alloys. They look pretty nice with the multi-spoke design. They are not offering 24s though. Some of the competition has moved on to 24s as the max size. And then as we take a look up here at our mirrors, gloss black finish on board. Obviously these are going to be fully loaded with all of the features, including power folding and auto dimming on the driver's side for this top model.
Now at the side, this vehicle comes in at 209 inches long, which is very, very big. You can see that just me standing here. Now I do want to point out though, compared to some of its main competition, maybe a Chevy Tahoe for instance, you're not going to have a long wheelbase version. This is just going to be the only configuration that you can get this vehicle in, so that is something to keep in mind. Expedition and Tahoe are offering that. Now as far as other features, I do want to point out that your higher end examples can get a blacked out two-tone roof. That makes for a really cool look. And as far as your safety systems are concerned, of course, this is a family hauling SUV. Nissan knows that, so they're giving you all of your active safety features as standard equipment. And additionally, they'll throw in ProPilot 1.1 or 2.1 depending on what trim level you select. 2.1 is supposed to have some limited hands-free driving as well as automatic lane change. We weren't able to have that work this week though on our test vehicle. But guys, I think you're going to be very curious as to what Nissan's done on the inside and our impression of it. But first, if you're new here, we're brothers and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We started young, and since then we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
No matter what you're looking for, from our long-term vehicle videos to our side-by-side comparisons, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, let's go and check out the inside. First, here's our key fob. It's your typical Nissan key fob, kind of the newer, more squared off design. You have standard smart entry and remote start. We also have the auto walk-away lock and unlock feature enabled today, so that means I can just kind of approach the vehicle. It'll go ahead and unlock the door for me. And then let's take a look inside at the interior. Now, obviously, compared to the last generation, this is a night and day difference in terms of technology. It's also a big enhancement in terms of luxury, especially here on this top-end Platinum Reserve. So what are you going to get? Well, in terms of your seating, you begin with leatherette. However, you can work your way up the trim structure until you get to this, where you get the quilted leather. It's a beautiful design here. I love the stitching details and how they have two different types kind of going through the quilting. It's very premium looking. There's also 3 different colors you can choose from on this version as well. And then, obviously, all the models are going to have power seats. You get extra ways of adjustment as you move up the trim structure. And then this is exclusive to just the Platinum Reserve. It's our massage function. Then you have memory seats over here on the door trim as well. And let's go ahead and climb inside. Now, getting inside is nice and easy with this handle. Just be aware that you have regular fixed running boards. There's no option for a power running board on this model. All right. Now let's look around at the rest of the cabin materials. Again, like I was saying, it's very, very premium on this trim level. You got the leather that goes all through here on your armrest, as well as the center section with the multi-tone. Really very similar to the QX80. And then you've got leather across the top here with stitching details, more of the matching through here. Small piece of wood, not a ton of wood in the cabin, but it's very nice. It's an open pore design. And then through our center section, we've got a textured area here, little since 1951 badge right there, which is also the same as what is displayed when the puddle lamps are projecting on the ground, by the way. And then more leatherette going all through here. Feels very, very solid and very Japanese luxury. Let's go ahead and fire it up. And now that we're all fired up here, let's dive into some individual details. Now, obviously, as I was talking about when we first got in, we have a huge tech enhancement. We've got dual 14.3-inch displays on this model. This is an upper tier example. The 2 base models, those are going to come with dual 12.3-inch displays, but regardless, you get the digital cluster, which means you have full reconfigurability. You can do things like put Google Maps right there in the display and change the overall arrangement. Also, on the SL trim and above, you get a head-up display, which can display a lot of information when it is active. Now, as we pull back to the steering wheel, nice leather-wrapped steering wheel. We have the upgraded premium leather, which is very smooth, even over the airbag cover. It's basically exactly the same as Infiniti, and it has power adjustment and heating, of course, as well. Now, let's talk about interior storage, though. It's a big part of why you buy a big SUV. And opening up our center console here, we're going to find a pretty good amount. Inside, we have a lot of donuts. That's because, of course, we do the donut test. We check the volume and compare to the competition. This has 16 donuts, which is a pass on the donut test because it's more than a dozen, but less than some of the major competition since it is just a little bit narrower. That being said, you've got a lot of other storage. So you slide that back, you've got your large wireless phone charging pad, 2 cup holders right there. We also have a large center pass-through here where you can store some additional things. No storage shelf though, or anything like that. Now we also have a small electronic style shifter. It's the new piano style, just push down for drive there. You can also shift manually with paddle shifters. Press the R for reverse. And when you do, the majority of your trims are going to give you this 360-degree camera system. As you can see, you've got the nice overhead view. You can switch some angles right there. Also, you can trigger the 3D view as well if you want to kind of spin all around the vehicle like so. Now below that, you've got your drive mode controller, and you see all those different terrains that you can select. You also have your four-wheel drive controls through there. And then we've got this section right here, which is something I really like. It's a manual climate control setup. Nowadays, obviously, a lot of brands are going to very complicated electronic buttons or a touchscreen like what you get in the QX80. This is just a very nice physical control, super easy to use while driving. You have heated seats, and you also have ventilated seats on your higher end examples. And by the way, this is 3-zone automatic. Now right above that, you'll find the volume knob, which can control a couple different audio systems. Our upper examples will get the Klipsch audio system. It's got 12 speakers, and we'll go ahead and give it a sample now. While this is not as many speakers as what you get in the high-end Infinity version of this sound system, it still sounds fantastic. It's certainly one of the best ones in the segment, and it would blow away things like the JBL in the Sequoia. All right, now let's zero in on the main infotainment system. Here, this is a 14.3-inch display, as I already mentioned. And let me kind of go back into the main screen. You can see we've got wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Both those things are standard no matter if you get the 12.3-inch display or the 14.3-inch display. Once you get into Nissan's system, overall performance is pretty snappy. They've got some elaborate animations going on there. We also critically, though, have built-in Google applications, including Google Maps on your upper-end examples beginning at the SL trim. Now up top here, we've got the auto dimming mirror with the special rear camera mirror functionality. Once you get to the platinum trim level, that's what will unlock our panoramic sunroof. It's got a large sunshade, and the front panel does open up.
All right, but these vehicles are going to be used for family road trips and vacations, so let's talk about this rear seat area as well. Now, first of all, let's talk about space. So when it comes to space, we're sitting at about 39 inches of legroom and about 38 inches of headroom. Now, if you compare that to some of its main rivals, such as the Chevy Tahoe, that is going to be a little bit less legroom and headroom. However, it's still plenty of space. I'm 5'9" for reference. This seat is adjusted to Drew, who is 5'8". And of course, we bring along the official Car Confections ruler. The reason we do that is so you can see how much knee room to expect. We are sitting at about 11 inches of additional knee room, and my feet can easily slide up underneath of the seat. So certainly very spacious here in the rear seat of the Armada. As you can see, the seats do also slide forward and back a good distance, and they also recline a good distance. So a very comfortable rear seat. My only objection is the fact this center armrest is literally as hard as a rock. I was riding back here on a longer road trip, and it actually has zero give. So I'm not sure why exactly that's so hard. I call it the hard rest because it certainly has no padding in it at all. Now, as far as the seating configurations itself, captain's chairs are an available option. However, bench seating is the standard seating configuration, which of course would add a seat to overall capacity. As far as if you choose the captain's chairs, you're going to get these two cup holders here in the center, two USB ports, and a little storage cubby. These cup holders are good enough to fit a Stanley water bottle. And then as far as features here in the center area, we have our own zone of climate, as Drew mentioned earlier. Additionally, we have heated back seats. That's going to be included on platinum grades and above. Two more USBs and a 12-volt household outlet. I am noticing no 12-volt power outlet, no household outlet on this model. Now, vents are going to come out of the ceiling. And if you look over at the door trim, no rear window sunshades, which is a little disappointing. However, it's going to be made of really nice materials, leather through the whole center section, leather in the armrest, and we also have a lot of bottle storage, which will also fit the Stanley water bottle. Now let's go ahead and check out the third row. In order to get back here, it's quite easy. You just grab that little lever that's going to allow the seat to tilt and slide out of the way. You would not have to remove a child seat, so that's certainly very nice because the back doesn't move. And let's see how much space we're going to have here in the third row. Well, turns out you're going to have a lot of space here in the third row. I'll go ahead and insert the legroom figures down below, but we're sitting at really good numbers for this full-size segment, and certainly a lot better than what you had in the previous generation Armada, and certainly something that does rival things like the Tahoe and is worlds better than something like a Sequoia, for instance. Now, let's go ahead and see how much knee room we have. This seat is slid all the way back in its tracks, and we are sitting at about 3 inches of additional knee room. Keep in mind, I'm 5'9". My feet can also slide up underneath of the seat, and there are 3 third-row seats back here. So overall seating capacity on this one is 7. Standard is 8 passenger seating. Now, as far as features are concerned, we do have the ability to power recline. I'm not sure why it made that noise, but that makes it really, really comfortable here in the third row. And then as far as the connections, we have a USB-C port, 2 more cup holders, a nice assist grip, and vents coming out of the ceiling. So overall, how this lands on our third row rating scale, I'm going to say this is definitely fit for adults. However, it is lacking things like heating, which is something that the Infiniti QX80 offers. Now, walking up to the tailgate, of course, we do have a hands-free power one, and let's go ahead and talk about how much space you're going to have here in the cargo department of this Armada. Now, spoiler alert, it's going to be a lot. 20 cubic feet behind the third row of seats, 56 cubic feet with those seats folded, and as a maximum, 97 cubic feet. Now, that is going to be more than the Toyota Sequoia, but still about 20 cubic feet less than the Chevy Tahoe, for instance. And by the way, if you're interested in seeing how this Nissan Armada ranks against other full-size SUVs, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. Now, the reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that has looked at all of these full-size SUVs. There are a lot of different options to pick from, and we've ranked them in individual categories that might matter more or less to you. For instance, third row space, cargo capacity, powertrain choices, luxury features, reliability, resale value. All those things can be broken down, and you can see specific elements that might matter more or less to you. Now, back to the Armada, we do have quite a good amount of space behind the third row, and if we want to fold the third row down, all we have to do is kind of lower these little headrests here. It's quite easy. And then we have a power folding third row. So just one press of the button there, that will go ahead and fold the third row of seats down. I can also electronically release the second row to give a completely flat loading floor. That's going to give us that full 97 cubic feet of space. And it's a Car Confections review after all, so let's go ahead and see how our cargo length, width, and height figures are. So from behind Drew's 5'8" driving position, we are sitting at 88 inches of cargo length. From behind the second row of seats, 48 inches of length. From behind the third row, 17 inches. As far as overall width, really good, 51 inches wide. Overall height, very good as well, 33 inches tall. Underneath of the floor, there's a little bit of extra space. We also do have a full-size spare tire, as well as buttons here in the cargo area to raise and lower the air suspension, which is lowered right now. So that means our overall cargo load-in height is pretty good, 32 inches. That's really no more than your average SUV because the air suspension has lowered down. Well, guys, here we are behind the wheel of the Nissan Armada. In this test drive, we will be talking about the things you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our official Kentucky sound level rating. I know a lot of you guys have been waiting on that. But first, we need to go ahead and start with a hard acceleration. Nice.
That was our acceleration over 60 miles per hour. Now, when I'm driving this vehicle, I kind of flash back to the previous version, which we drove many times between the Armada and the QX80. And of course, that one had the naturally aspirated V8 engine, but in this case, we're looking at having this new 3.5-liter twin turbocharged V6 engine. The power is substantially improved with this new engine, even if your displacement is down. You got 25 more horsepower for 425 horsepower total, and then a lot more torque. We're over 500 pound-feet of torque, which I think is the big thing. You really notice as soon as you put your foot down.
Yeah, it's over 100 pound-feet more torque than the previous generation. And, you know, like Drew said, I have fond memories of the previous V8 engine. I certainly love V8s. They have amazing growls to them. And yes, I miss the engine noise. However, the power increase on this is so much improved over the previous generation. I have to say I don't miss it too much overall, just because of how much extra power you have on board. That torque number specifically really pushes you back in your seat, and I think it's going to make driving this vehicle very effortless in any situation.
Yeah, definitely this is, much more powerful than the outgoing generation. It just feels a lot more lively overall. That one, for having 400 horsepower, did feel a little sluggish at times. Now, another thing that's new about this model is our 9-speed automatic transmission. We're driving around right now in the sport mode, so everything's, quite aggressive overall in terms of your downshifts. But very smooth transmission. This one really can move around through the gears smoothly. You don't really feel it at all, especially when I take it back into the standard drive mode here and just drive like a civilized person. It's really something that's going to just blend nicely into the background.
Yeah. Now, how power is routed to the ground is via standard 2-wheel drive on every trim level besides for that Pro 4X. That will have standard 4-wheel drive, but do keep in mind, even on this high-end Platinum Reserve, you do have to option on 4-wheel drive, which is a little interesting. However, I guess that does give you a little bit of a lower price point for those of you that do not live in a colder climate. All right, but we have turned on to just the highway section, and it's time for us to talk about the ride quality for this Armada. Now, like we said throughout this video, we lived with this vehicle for 7 days, and we actually did take it on a pretty extensive road trip over about 150 miles, and during that time, we were all very impressed with the ride quality. It does a fantastic job of soaking up the bumps. Even with the largest 22-inch alloy wheels on the outside, this vehicle rides really, really nicely. I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised. Now, why does it ride so nicely? Well, because here on the Pro 4X model and the Platinum Reserve, you're going to have a standard full air suspension. Now, that is certainly a nice thing in itself. It really helps to kind of isolate out those road imperfections and also kind of smooth out any of the bumpiness that you would typically get out of a body-on-frame vehicle. Really impressed with the air suspension that we have witnessed here on this Armada, as well as the QX80. I think it does a fantastic job.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it has variable height, so it lowers down when you are getting in and out, and loading cargo makes things easier in that regard as well. So there's certainly benefits to this, and not everything in the segment offers it. Like the Ford Expedition, for example, does not have an available air suspension.
Yeah, and the Toyota Sequoia is just a rear load leveling air suspension, so it's not a full setup like this. All right, so now that we're going 55 miles per hour, let's go ahead and get our sound level reading. Our rear climate is turned off, and we are on fan speed 1. 53.9 decibels is what we are sitting at as our sound level reading. It is sprinkling ever so slightly outside, however, really not much to disturb the sound level reading itself. Is just a little bit of a mist outside. That is a very good sound level reading, though. We don't have to sit here and guess. We can go to carconfections.com/sound level readings, and on our website we posted all of the full-size SUVs that this vehicle competes with, and we can see how it compares. Now, as far as how that compares, what does that make it? It actually makes it the quietest full-size mainstream SUV that we have tested out. We actually had noticed that in Tennessee as well. It was already very impressive at 54 decibels. This undercuts that even a little bit more. So Nissan has really done a fantastic job with the sound insulation inside this cabin. To even be able to achieve that with a little sprinkle outside as well is very impressive stuff. All right, let's go ahead and get into our car confections, slam dunk, and airball, which is our favorite and least favorite element. Drew, what is our slam dunk?
So slam dunk is just going to be the similarities to the Infiniti QX80. We have now spent a week with both of the all-new models, and when you're talking about this Platinum Reserve specifically, the resemblance to that model is really a lot. They share most things, actually. And that's a good thing because this makes it a very, very solid SUV. It really just feels like a luxury SUV experience that you get inside of this model, and it's just rock solid overall.
Yeah. On the airball side of things, what we're going to say is that we wish it was just a few $1,000s less expensive, and the pricing is not out of line of most of the rivals. However, the Armada, if you want to gain ground in this full-size SUV segment, is very competitive. I feel like more of a value quotient would have been appreciated. We're sitting at around $84,000 to $85,000 on this model, particularly today, which does make it very similar to something like a fully loaded Sequoia Capstone, as well as options like a Tahoe High Country, maybe without all the options, but most of the options. It's not going to represent too much of a cheaper price point, unfortunately. And while we're just kind of sitting here at this red light, that reminds me to talk about our fuel economy. So even though we've switched to a V6, you're not going to be getting incredibly good fuel economy. Of course, that was mainly a switch to give you more power and torque. So we're sitting at 16, 20, 18 miles per gallon combined for two-wheel drive. Goes down to 17 miles per gallon combined with four-wheel drive. And as far as our real-world fuel economy that we've experienced this week, we drove about 175 miles at the time of us filming this video, and we were sitting at 18 miles per gallon, so 18.0 miles per gallon. That actually is, right on par with what the EPA is saying, considering a lot of that was on the highway. So overall, I think you can expect to get those EPA numbers out of this model. And the thing I do want to note, compared to the QX80, is the fact that this uses regular fuel, which certainly will save you quite a bit of money, whereas the QX80 requests premium fuel. And after 7 days, do we like it better, the same, or worse? Well, I think both of us agree that we do like this Armada better. It is really a great full-size SUV option. We really enjoyed our time with the QX80, and then, later on when we get this Armada in the driveway and basically feel that it's nearly identical to the QX80, that's certainly a good thing for being $30,000 less. So we like all of the things that we liked about the QX80, except for a cheaper price point here in this Armada.
And it's not really a big focus of a huge SUV like this, but I have to say I'm also very impressed by the way it handles overall. As far as full-size SUVs are concerned, check that out. Pretty agile. It really has a nice suspension tuning on this. It's got the digital suspension, I believe is what it's called, and basically it just allows this to be a little bit more agile than you would expect for a full-size SUV. It controls the body roll nicely. The steering is nicely weighted as well, so if there's a such thing as a sporty, giant SUV, I guess this is it.
And let's go ahead and talk pricing. So as I said at the beginning of the video, this vehicle starts at $56,000. As you move up the trim structure, you go to the Platinum Reserve, which starts at around $77,000, and all the other trims will fall somewhere in between there. We have the four-wheel drive system, as well as pretty much every available option that you can get on the Platinum Reserve. So we are sitting at about $84,000 as tested today. So that's just something to keep in mind. It is less than a fully loaded Tahoe, for instance, and pretty on par with something like a Toyota Sequoia Capstone. Now, if you're looking to buy a Nissan Armada or any new vehicle, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool for dealership negotiation. It can really help the dealers to start competing on price. We even have a monthly payment tool, so we definitely recommend checking that tool out if you're looking to buy any new vehicle. You can find it in our video description or in the pinned comment down below. But buying a vehicle is about more than just the original MSRP, so let's dive into resale and reliability. First up, let's talk about resale value. As an economics graduate myself, Drew and I took the time to develop what we think is a good estimate for this Nissan Armada's potential resale value. We estimate that after 5 years and 60,000 miles, it'll be worth 50.5% of original MSRP, and after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 16.4%. Now, it's worth noting that is right at the industry average for all vehicle brands. However, it's certainly not as good as some other brands such as Chevrolet, Toyota, or Honda, so just keep that in mind.
Now, we've also done the same for reliability by developing the Combined Reliability Index. This takes into account several studies on reliability and combines them in a way that gives you a more holistic picture. In this regard, Nissan is rated right at the overall industry average for all vehicle makes.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about our resale values, our reliability information, or our methodology, be sure to go to carconfections.com/resale and carconfections.com/reliability. Buying a new vehicle is a very big decision, so you want to make sure you're making a smart purchase, especially if you're cross-shopping between different vehicle brands. Now, lastly, as far as your warranty is concerned, you have a 3-year 36,000-mile basic, 5-year 60 powertrain. Additionally, Nissan is including 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance, which is new for 2025. And guys, that's going to wrap up our in-depth 7-day review of the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. If you enjoyed watching this video or found it helpful in your purchasing decisions, which we hope you did, we'd really appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button down below. By subscribing, you're going to get the latest car reviews such as this. You're also going to get our 7-day reviews after we live with the vehicle and so much more. We definitely recommend subscribing down below. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.